The sun was a merciless hammer, and the desert an endless anvil. I was on my last legs, my canteen empty for what felt like a lifetime. Just as my vision started to blur into a single, shimmering wave of heat, I stumbled. My hand hit something hard and cool beneath the scorching sand. I dug, frantically, my fingers raw, until I unearthed it. A small, ornate oil lamp, tarnished with age. With the last of my strength, I gave it a half-hearted rub, trying to wipe away the grime. And that's when my world turned upside down. A plume of purple smoke, smelling of ancient spices and ozone, erupted from the spout. It swirled and solidified into the form of a woman, but she wasn't some giant, cartoonish figure. She was ethereal. Her eyes held the depth of 1,000 starlit nights, and her smile was both enchanting and unnerving. "You have freed me, mortal," she said, her voice like wind chimes and distant thunder. "For this, I shall grant you a reprieve from your fate." Before I could even process what was happening, a water skin, beaded with cool condensation, appeared in my hand. I drank like a man possessed. It was the sweetest, most life-giving water I'd ever tasted. "Thank you," I gasped, my throat no longer feeling like sandpaper. "You saved my life." She simply floated there, observing me with an unreadable expression. "I am Zaina," she declared, "and saving you was but a prelude. I can give you more, so much more than a simple drink of water. I can give you a kingdom." I laughed, a raw, incredulous sound. A kingdom? Me? I was just a lost traveler, a nobody. "What's the catch?" I asked, because stories like this always have a catch. Zaina's smile widened. "A keen mind. I like that," she said. "The price is simple, yet profound. I will build you an empire from these very sands. Cities of alabaster, rivers flowing through the dunes, loyal subjects who sing your praises. You will be a king, remembered for all time." She gestured, and the desert around us shimmered. For a fleeting moment I saw it. Towering spires, bustling markets, lush gardens where there was only sand. The vision was so vivid, so intoxicating, that my heart hammered against my ribs. "And the price," I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. Her gaze met mine, and for the first time I felt a chill despite the desert heat. "The price," she said softly, "is your soul." My blood ran cold. My soul? It sounded like something out of a dark fairy tale. "What does that even mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "You want me to sign some dusty contract in blood?" Zaina laughed, a sound that was genuinely amused. "Oh, you mortals and your dramatic flair. It is not so crude. Your soul, your essence, is a source of immense energy. It is what animates you, what gives you passion, creativity, love. In exchange for the kingdom, you would tether that essence to me. You would still live, you would still rule. You would have every material pleasure imaginable. But your inner fire, your spark, that would belong to me. You would feel less. The highs would not be so high, the lows not so low. You'd become a spectator in your own magnificent life." I looked around at the desolate landscape, then back at the impossible being before me. A kingdom. Power, wealth, security. Everything I'd never had. An end to struggle. An end to being another forgotten face in the crowd. All for something I couldn't even see or touch. My soul. What was it, really? Just a concept? But as I thought about it, I remembered the joy of watching a sunrise, the warmth of a shared laugh with a friend, the sting of grief that reminded me I was alive and that I had loved. Would I trade all of that for an empty crown? "So I'd be a puppet king," I stated, the realization dawning on me. "A hollow man on a golden throne." Zaina's expression didn't change. A comfortable, powerful, and eternally remembered puppet, yes. Many would make that trade in a heartbeat. Think of the good you could do. You could end famine, build libraries, foster peace. Your name would be a synonym for prosperity. Does the motivation behind the good deed truly matter if the deed itself is done? Her argument was seductive. It twisted logic and morality into a very tempting knot. I could be a great king, a force for good. Did it matter if I didn't feel the satisfaction from it? I paced back and forth on the sand, the lamp still clutched in my hand. Zaina watched me silently, patiently. She had all the time in the world. I thought about the life I'd left behind. It was hard, yes, full of uncertainty and disappointment, but it was mine. Every mistake, every small victory, every heartbreak and every moment of pure, unadulterated happiness. They were all threads in the tapestry of my being. Giving up my soul meant unraveling that tapestry, leaving behind a blank, albeit gilded, canvas. Was a kingdom worth becoming a ghost? What would you do with it? I asked, stopping my pacing. My soul? Why do you want it? For the first time, a flicker of something, ancient and weary, crossed her features. Genies are not what your stories make us out to be, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. We are bound, imprisoned. Our power is immense, but it is not our own. We are conduits. The energy we collect, the souls, it's a currency, a means to an end, a way to one day buy our own freedom. So she wasn't a malevolent demon. She was a prisoner, just like I had been in this desert. Her prison was just older and more ornate. This changed everything. It wasn't about good versus evil anymore. It was about two beings, each desperate for a different kind of freedom. Freedom from thirst and obscurity for me. Freedom from eternal servitude for her. My choice wouldn't just define my future. It would impact hers, too. Could I condemn her to continued imprisonment just to keep my own inner fire? But could I condemn myself to an eternity of emptiness, even for her sake? The weight of the decision was heavier than any mountain. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the dunes, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, just like the smoke she had emerged from. This is an impossible choice, I said, finally looking her in the eyes. You're asking me to weigh my very essence against a tangible empire, to trade the intangible for the material. Zaina nodded slowly. That is the nature of the greatest bargains, mortal. They are never easy. I thought for a long, long time, the desert growing cold around us. I thought about the faces of people I'd known, the taste of my mother's cooking, the feeling of rain on my skin after a long drought. Simple, small things. Things a king in a desert kingdom might never experience again. Things a man without a soul could never appreciate. Finally, I made my decision. I held out the lamp to her. No, I said, my voice clear and firm. I can't. My life may not be a kingdom, but it is mine. The joys, the pains, the struggles, they are what make me who I am. I won't trade that, not for anything. I expected her to be angry, to lash out, to vanish and leave me to my fate in the desert, but she didn't. Instead, a slow, genuine smile spread across her face. It was different from her earlier smiles. This one reached her ancient, starlit eyes. That, she said, her voice filled with a warmth I hadn't heard before, is the wisest choice any mortal has ever made in my presence. She took the lamp from my hand. The test was not whether you would accept the kingdom, but why you would refuse it. To understand the value of one's own soul is a power far greater than any kingdom I could offer. She tapped the water skin I still held, and it immediately felt heavy again. Another bag, filled with food and dates, appeared at my feet. This will see you to the nearest city. It lies that way, she said, pointing toward the rising moon. Your journey will still be hard. Your life will not be easy, but it will be yours. And with a final, respectful nod, she dissolved back into a plume of purple smoke which funneled itself neatly back into the lamp. The lamp then clattered to the sand and, in a blink, turned to dust, carried away by the night wind. I was alone again in the vast, silent desert, but I wasn't lost anymore. I had a direction, I had supplies, and, more importantly, I had myself, all of me. I shouldered my new provisions and started walking toward the moon, feeling the cool sand under my feet. I didn't have a kingdom, but I had a life to live, and for the first time, I understood that was more than enough. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.